Hello there my Jedi and Sith friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today we're diving into the dark side of the Force. I hope you're ready to talk about Darth Sidious, Darth Vader, and even Darth Plagueis. For today, we have some massive new reveals from the book Star Wars Master of Evil. And while the book mainly focuses on Darth Vader, we also need to understand where Palpatine is coming from, for the new novel answers some big questions that were never answered from the Rise of Skywalker. Now, when this book was first announced, I was really excited. A canon book focused on Vader post-Revenge of the Sith? Are you kidding? This should have been a home run. But unfortunately, my friends, it doesn't live up to the hype. It doesn't even come close to another comparable book, one from Legends by James Luceno, Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader. On paper, both books are very similar and have very similar goals. Explore Vader's life in the suit, the weeks and months following his duel on Mustafar, and Vader coming to terms with everything he's lost, Padmé's death, a life of security, and a life of freedom. And now he's staring down the barrel of servitude to the most evil man in the galaxy, the most selfish man in the entire universe. But one key difference between the two books is the newer novel's premise promised a story of Vader chasing Palpatine up about his promise to teach him the secrets to immortality. The idea that Anakin could save his wife from certain death was one of the biggest reasons he pledged allegiance to the Sith. And while I will admit it is explored to some extent, and the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise is a consistent motif, it's done in the most shallow way possible. And arguably the biggest letdown of the entire book is that it's not told from the perspective of Vader or Palpatine, or even just in the third person, but instead, it's told from the perspective of Harland Goth, the head of Palpatine's royal guard, someone tasked by the ISB to spy on Vader. We'll get back to him later, but let's first talk about the juicy stuff. Time and time again, the novel makes a point to illustrate the imbalanced dynamic between master and apprentice in the Sith rule of two. The master, in this case Palpatine, must regularly punish the apprentice, keeping him in a state of mental and physical pain. Palpatine would often unleash his rage on Vader for even questioning him. Now here's the bit we didn't know. Sidious's treatment of Vader relates to his return later in the timeline in Episode 9. The novel reveals that the relationship between master and apprentice is rather parasitic, and only beneficial for the master. So when Vader died, killing Palpatine and saving Luke, this ruined Palpatine's original contingency. The novel says, quote, "The power of the dark side is the truth, but it is not a truth to be shared. Its secrets are to be gathered, hoarded, and kept for the self. That is how it's meant to be. The master's strength and power comes from the anger and fear of his apprentice. Like a leech, he requires those two things. The master uses that power, fueling the fire, focusing his power and his grip on the dark side. It is the apprentice that makes the master, not the master, the apprentice." So why is this important? Because Palpatine required Vader for a successful life essence transfer. This is why in Episode 9, he starts out very weak, after years of experimentation, Snoke clones, Rey's father being a failed Strandcast, and it's the reason he only gets stronger when he draws upon the Force dyad of Rey and Ben. And this explains why the immensely powerful Anakin was so appealing to Palpatine in the prequel trilogy, and why he kept him by his side, even after the former Jedi became more machine than man. When Vader turned on his master, the rule of two, which is supposed to emulate a dyad, was broken, and so without this power to leech from, the villain, the master, was weakened. As for why he used Snoke rather than Ben Solo, it's probably because Palpatine feared another betrayal, as he was frail at this point. So even to this day, my friends, Star Wars is trying to explain the foibles of the Rise of Skywalker. So an interesting but unexpected focus for a novel like this is Palpatine's obsession with control of the universe and immortality. Understand the universe's secrets to own and dominate them. And while it's only touched upon in this book, another canon novel where this is explored is Aftermath Empire's End, and as I was rereading it, I realized that there might be some massive connections to Ahsoka Season 2. Maybe Dave Filoni was inspired by this book, and the reason I say this is there are thematic connections to what Palpatine was after and what's calling out to Baylan. It's explicitly stated that Palpatine was seeking an immense dark side power in another galaxy. Could Chuck Wendig have been referring to Abeloth or some kind of dark side nexus? Here is the passage, and these are the words quoted from Gallius Rax. This is about Sidious discovering a source of power just before his death. Palpatine said this galaxy was his, but that it was only one among many, the unexplored infinity. This, he noted, was his domain. The galaxy was his game board. If he lost this game, the game board was to be broken in half and discarded. A new domain must then be found. The computers had long been searching for a way through the storms and black spaces. Slowly, surely, they've been putting together a map, a journey into chaos. The Empire sent probe droids to test computations as the computers have made them, but many never returned. However, some kept reporting in. Every droid that made it further contributed to the map, and with distance achieved, the computers, through the scanning droids, continued to chart the course and compute the next branches of navigation. But before Palpatine's demise, the computers finished their calculations, finally finding a way through the unknown. The Emperor was convinced that something out there waited for him. Some dark presence formed of malevolent substance, something which felt his presence back. Sidious sensed something was calling to him, and now that he's gone, the original purpose of the observatory can be maintained. The game is lost, the Empire is dead, but not the source of chaos. So when Palpatine was alive, he was seeking out this dark presence, which might, in light of what Ahsoka is now doing, be related to Peridia. They mention the existence of other galaxies, and this was years before Dave Filoni mapped out the Ahsoka show. So there could be some connection with Baylan, but Palpatine's search for power was way more widespread than the movies demonstrate. And while you might argue that surely this has something to do with Exegol, it doesn't. Palpatine already discovered Exegol before episode 5. This was confirmed in the Vader comics, so it's left open-ended. Some people have read into some Snoke interpretations, but I bring this up because I wouldn't be surprised if this is explored further in Ahsoka Season 2, through Baylan, who seeks the beginning. It might have something to do with the world between worlds, but I love for it to be a dark entity. And so returning to Master of Evil, having some knowledge in advance about what Palpatine's interests were makes his interactions in this book far more interesting. The way power is explored is starkly different. It's the way Palpatine holds it against Vader, while telling him very little, because the truth is that he didn't know half the things that he once promised Anakin. The story of Darth Plagueis and the promise of saving those he loved from death is a continuous, dangling carrot on a stick. In an excruciating way, Palpatine teases Vader with it, and anytime Vader comes to Palpatine about it, he's shot down. Once, quite literally, and Sidious tells him that any dark side secrets belong only to him, for he believed himself to be the literal embodiment of the dark side of the Force. He was never going to share anything with Vader, lest he overthrow him. And sometimes, it's a tragic book. The reader gets to experience Vader being torn between the light and the dark, tormented by visions of Padme, even fighting a light side version of himself. But Vader and Palpatine are not the only two obsessed with immortality. The protagonist, Colonel Goth, is dying from a terminal illness, so he has to confront what it means to die. So his perspective adds a more humane dimension to this book. Overall, I give the novel a 7, and that's being generous, out of 10. Share your thoughts in the comments down below, my dear friends, and may the Force be with you, always.